Hey, you're listening to Don't Lie to Your Life Coach podcast with Kim Arrington. I'm Kim Arrington. I'm a life coach, a weight loss coach, an author, and a badass passionate about helping you connect back to your most authentic self. Join me here each week so I can coach you on how to think all those juicy thoughts that get you feeling your absolute best and taking some big ass action. Coaching has changed my life, and it can change your life too. I'm here to give you real life solutions to create a life you'll love. Because the truth is, boo, you ain't just got problems, you got options. Hey, I got noisy earrings on today, y'all. I haven't worn these in a long time, and I saw them and I was like, feeling cute. Might wear it. What they say, feeling cute, might delete later. I'm not deleting later. Anytime I got some shoulder showing, I am feeling good about me. And today is a perfect episode for that. I am talking all about making pleasure a habit in 2024 and beyond. I promised y'all this podcast about how you can make pleasure a habit. Okay, and this is the right time. Midlife is the incredible time for you to do this. You may need this podcast. If you're not quite understanding why you don't have any pep in your step, like my mama used to say, why you don't feel like yourself, if you are looking at other people, other women, and being like, oh, well, she's really pretty. I like what she's doing and how she looks, but I can't do that. Or, maybe you might even feel a little bit of jealousy, like, who does she think she is? Or she can wear this, or she can wear that. Yeah, you need to be making pleasure a habit. If you find yourself talking adoringly about people all the time, you need to make pleasure a habit. If you find yourself talking shit about people all the time, you need to make pleasure a habit. And the reason why I put habit in there is that when we start on a journey of increasing the pleasure in our lives, we may have a lot of feelings about it. If you keep with it, the transformation is there waiting on you. And I can't think of any other thing, because I loop in fun with pleasure. Pleasure to me is not just sexual. Pleasure is fun. Pleasure is a lot of things. Pleasure is what you get to define, okay? You get to define what pleasure means to you. Well, we're going to be talking all about that today. I have to share with you all. I went to see The Color Purple, and I on purpose went by myself because The Color Purple, the motion picture, is my absolute favorite movie of all time. Absolute favorite movie of all time. It's the movie I've seen the most. Maybe Still Magnolias is the second movie I've seen the most. But I love The Color Purple. I love everything about the story. I think it was masterfully told by Alice Walker in the book, masterfully told adaptation with Steven Spielberg, and this current iteration of the musical, masterful. But one of the reasons why I wanted to go by myself was because I knew I was going to be absolutely emotional, and I wanted that. I literally cried from the opening scene all the way to the end of the movie, because the movie was all about redemption, all about transformation, all about recognizing generational gifts passed down, all about recognizing generational love, about generational trauma and what it looks like to overcome that. And the love relationships between Black women, romantic love relationships, friendship, and family, and what that looks like. It was all of that and a bag of chips, okay? All of that and a bag of chips. But here's what I love. Celie undergoes this huge transformation, and who originally is, identified as pleasure is Shug Avery. Shug kind of initiates Celie into this idea of standing up for herself and having opinions and feeling good about herself and putting on, there's a scene where she puts on red lipstick on her and she goes out to the juke joint and all of that, and just loving Celie and Celie loving her. But what Celie does for Shug is that she teaches her about enduring love between friends, love with acceptance, love that allows for mistakes to be fixed, because we know that Shug and her dad had it out because Shug was a blues singer and her dad was in the church, but redemptive love. Such an incredible story. And I want to talk about kind of how you can be a Shug where you may just, this podcast might not be for you. You may be walking real deep in your pleasure journey, but you can also be a Celie, someone who initiates themselves into pleasure, okay? So in this podcast, I want to help initiate you into making pleasure a habit, because I've had to do that myself and I will continue doing that. But I also want you to know that if you feel a little flat right now, if you feel like life ain't jamming the way you want to, that can change. Remember, in 2024, solutions always exist. You just got to go out and find that, or sometimes just tune into it being here. This podcast is the place to be for that. Before we really get into it, I want to talk to you about something really special that I have coming in February. It's going to be a chance for you to work with me closer on a daily basis. And I'm just going to tease it a little bit because, sometimes pleasure just does that. I want you to look to your emails. If you have not gotten on my email list yet, you can go to kimarrington.com/free weight class. And if you just go to my website, and if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, one more spot. And honestly, by the time this airs, I got someone interested. If you still want to coach with me, get on the private coaching list, because I may decide to take on a couple more clients. I haven't decided, but get on the wait list and you'll be the first people to hear about it. You just go to the website, kimarrington.com. And if you're on YouTube, hit that bell so you get notified every time a podcast is uploaded, and leave me comments. Okay? That helps to pay the bills. Let's get back into this making pleasure a habit. Your true nature is peace, love, fun, pleasure. Do you believe that? Do you believe that your true nature, I know some of us have our religion that says different things, but your true nature is love. Let me tell you how. When I was a wee girl child, and you go into the bathroom and someone is crying, you feel that empathy. You feel that compassion. When you get into an argument with someone, guilt. The only good thing I can say about guilt, other than it begins with a G, like good, is the fact that guilt allows you to consider having done it differently. And if we hurt someone, even if we hurt them and it's our truth, there is a moment sometimes where we feel that feeling of wanting to be back connected. Also, your true nature is connection to all people, all things. And that's something that we have stepped away from, but that's innately who we are. We really can't step away from who we actually are. If you don't believe it, take my word for it. Remember, as a coach, I can hold the belief for you until you see it. Why don't you do this? Why don't you say, hey, whoever's listening, wherever you believe it's God, creator, nature, big spirit, mother God, I don't care what you call it, whatever's listening, your higher self, why don't you say, this week, show me my true nature, show me peace, show me love, show me pleasure. Gratitude is recognizing all of the good, recognizing all of the good. And so this week, why don't you That's your early homework. That's your pre-homework assignment to notice that. But for you to really make pleasure a habit, you need to be willing to receive. I know so many of us are good at giving. And if you're the person who is constantly giving, I want you to look at your relationship to control. Like, am I the person who needs to be doing all the things so I can feel like I'm controlling the situation? Or do I give because I really want to receive, but that feels too vulnerable to talk about receiving? I want you to ask yourself those questions because, and I'm going to link to my podcast, is all about receiving. Receiving is amazing. Hey, I believe those who allow ourselves to receive actually give from a full cup or give from the ability to be able to know that we have received from ourselves, we've received from others, and it's easier for us to share more freely. So I want you to look at your ability to receive. And even if we're talking about sexual pleasure, right? The ability to be vulnerable enough to allow yourself to be touched, to be held, to be loved, to be given pleasure. That's really important. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, we struggle with that as women over 40. Because if you are always on edge, if you're always feeling uptight, if you're always scared, if you're always feeling like the shoe is going to drop, the rug's going to be pulled right out from under you, and you have evidence because it happened 3 times. Now, we're not looking at if it's a numbers game. Let's look at all the times it hasn't happened. How many times has your phone not rang with an emergency? How many times have you not been awakened by a knock on the door at night? We don't focus on that. We focus on the times we were. So what I'm telling y'all is that for most of us, our feeling of being uptight or on edge or hyper vigilant is based off of 1 to 3 events that happen in our lives. And some of those events ain't even happened in this decade. So that means instead of looking around to prevent it from happening, why not relax that and step into a place of receiving? And safety. If it does happen, I'll be able to figure it out. I have a history of figuring things out. I'll be able to ask for help. I have a history of asking for help. I'm going to put in my podcast, Ask the Right People for Help. I don't have to deal with it on my own. I'm not the person in my household who has to figure everything out. I can stay quiet and see what happens for the other folks. Please, please, please. Here is the antithesis. The opposite of pleasure is feeling like everything has to come through you and that you have to do so much for others. Please, y'all, shake up that routine and learn how to shut the hell up and let other people handle their own stuff. Here's what's so funny. If you don't handle it, somebody else will. Either them or somebody else can step in. Speaking of shaking up your routine, if you want to experience pleasure, you are going to have to do some different things. I am going to use an example from my life. So friends, there is this place in Durham called Cosmic Cantina. Now, it's been around for, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 30 years at least. Let's just say since I was in high school and college for sure. And I love their giant chicken chimichanga. It's enough food where I literally can eat 4 meals off of it. It is huge. It is huge. And so there have been these memes going on that are like, if I send you these stairs, then you know what they are. And they have these very distinctive stairs. Last time I was there, actually, there's a dance studio on the other side of it, and I was taking samba, and y'all know about my samba. I shook it up on samba, and it sometimes pleasure doesn't work how you think it will, and that's okay too. I was not in a place to be able to do the samba, and that's okay, but I still tried. In pleasure, trying is a big part of that. So back to Cosmic Cantina. I decided that I went and worked out. I had this big stretch, like I said, big, 45 minutes before Cosmic Cantina opened. And I used to thrift all the time in the 90s, maybe even the early 2000s, but definitely the 90s. I used to thrift all the time. This was before I was freaked out about bed bugs. So I used to thrift all the time. My dad, growing up, used to love this place in my town called the Nearly News Shop. He would always bring stuff home from there. One time he literally brought a Pacer. Y'all know that 70s car that looks like a fat tick with the glass windows. I could see it with like an orange Pacer. Anyway, he used to always go there. Every time I pass by there, I feel like my dad is saying hello to me. And I pass by there several times a week. I ended up stopping in the shop. And at first I was like, okay, I'm just killing time. I'm not going to buy anything. Before I knew it, I had a 50 cents batik painting, a necklace, y'all. I hardly ever buy necklaces. I like a naked neck, but I bought a necklace and everyone's going to see it and say it's so me, which is so funny because I don't wear necklaces, but that's me shaking it up. I bought 2 dresses. One of the dresses was a size 8. I looked at it and I was like, this got some stretch. I think it's going to look good on me. And damn sure does. And what else did I buy? Oh, I bought this like, if I decide to get a second screen or if I want to take both my computers and use one as a second screen at a coffee shop, it's like I can put 2 things in the bag. Friends, how much should I spend? Under $30. I got all those things. I got to ask them about the days they have the discount. It was so much fun. I got to connect with the guy at the register and told him about the story and the woman behind me about my dad loving the shop and bringing home the car. I shook it up. I loved it. I smiled the rest of the day. I also had a massage that day too. That was shaking it up. Y'all, how are y'all shaking up your routine? Are you doing the same thing every single week? Y'all better hand them kids to your aunt or your mama or your best friend or their daddy or your partner. Hand over some of your responsibilities. Say, I can't cook dinner tonight. Shake it up. Go out with your girls. Do something you used to love to do. Enjoy yourself. I cannot tell you how many times I smile to myself. Gotta shake up your routine. All right. And y'all know every episode is sponsored by my weight loss program called Half Life. So let's hear more about Half Life. Hey girl, hey, my name is Coach Kim and I'm your last weight loss coach. More on that later. Yes, I've lost 65 pounds and I'm living my dream of lasting weight loss, plus so much more. And I'm here to spill some tea. What if I told you it only takes watching these 13 videos and doing your workbooks to finally have lasting weight loss? Like weight melting off like ice cream while you eat what you like weight loss? Like being able to go in any store and pick up a pair of jeans or that red dress in your size, like not having to lose weight for an event. You're going to the event and everybody is talking about you at the event and how good you look. Body confidence on 10, friend. And having the most fun you've had in years while saving money, time, and stress. Sign me up, coach. Put me in, coach. Half Life Weight Loss is going to help you gain your whole self back. I got you. All right. Can't wait to see you on the inside. All right, we're back. If you want to know more about Half Life, please go to www.kimarrington.com/free weight class. Let's get back to our podcast, all about pleasure. Speaking of shaking up your routine, what about making a pleasure list? What about making a list of things you like? I love to go see the string quartet. I love to go to museum. Also, it's extra points if some of these things can be free. Or you could talk to your friend and find a pleasure partner. Say, hey, I am trying to increase my pleasure in life. What do you like to do? And get some things. Go to the makeup counter and get a little free makeover. Like go and try some new perfumes or y'all know me. Y'all know I love a hike. Be in nature. Do things that you used to do. Do things you've always wanted to do. Have fun. Having more sex can be part of that. I'm going to link to my episode, C plus sex for the win. where I talk about sex. Like some of y'all got somebody cute laying in the bed right next to you, and you ain't maximizing the potential. You know, for some people who don't have partners, self-pleasure always available. Now, I don't have any problem with talking about sex, right? And sex with yourself, sex with others. But I don't want to make you think that pleasure is just about sexual pleasure. It can be, and it is, but it's about all types. A good ass laugh, that's pleasure too. One of them laughs where you can't even breathe, where you're doubled over, that's pleasure too. I'm going to link to a book that I love that I think can like wake women up, maybe men, in midlife about pleasure. And it's called Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts. Any of her work, Mama Gina is going to hip you to how to feel good, how to look good, how to smell good, and sexual pleasure, sensuality, all of that. Let me tell you something else y'all got to do for pleasure. You need to be owning your own time. You need to cut out some of this shit you do not want to do. You need to hand stuff off. You need to get off things that you've been saying you wanted to do for 10 years. You still doing it. What did Maxine Waters say? Reclaiming my time. Y'all got to reclaim your time. You've got to decide that yours time gets to be yours. You can tell your kids, hey, I know you're doing 6 activities. We about to take it down to 3. Don't feel like you have to be like partner with some parents who need to reclaim their time. Reclaiming your time. If you feel like all you do is get up, go to work, come home, and you don't have time for yourself, time for the book you love, time for whatever the hell, time for a vacation, y'all take your damn PTO. Take your PTO. Time for all those things. Then, of course, life is going to start to feel all crappy. It makes sense. You are reacting to wanting more excitement. Pleasure is about finding your excitement and going for it, and going for it. Here's another thing, and I said this a little bit earlier. Why don't you make making pleasure a habit, an urgent need, versus always running and making everything else urgent? The next time something comes up that hurts you, that bothers you, that makes you mad, take the urgency out of it. I don't have to respond right away to someone. I don't have to do things in anyone else's time. I get to be my own person. I get to set my own tempo. You all ever see someone who's like running around and makes you nervous? Try moving a little slower. Try moving a little more liquid and seeing how that makes you feel. Let people wait for your response. Allow yourself to be present in what you're doing. Have you ever been with someone who's completely present with you? They're not looking at their phone. They're not doing, this is me and my friend last night. We went out to dinner. Those phones didn't come out an hour into our dinner. We were talking about life and love and how we've grown and our excitement and our hopes and dreams. It was such a present conversation, and it was lovely for both of us. And I love her so much. She's like, I'm just so happy. Finding your way back to yourself, to your excitement, reclaiming your time makes you feel good. Here's another thing. You're doing enough. You're doing too much, okay? But you're doing enough. You are doing enough. Allow yourself to know that you are doing enough, and that some of that enough can be done a little less, and it can lead back to you. Your job is to be you, yourself. That is enough work in this lifetime, figuring yourself out, enjoying yourself, deciding what you want to change, and spending it with some others, some other nouns who don't drive you crazy all the time. You are only allowed to have 1 or 2 of those nouns drive you crazy. You are not allowed to have all the nouns drive you crazy. want you to believe that things can change. I want you to believe that if you were to work towards pleasure for the next 30, 60, 90 year, if your year theme was to have more pleasure, have more fun, that things can change. That the way you feel right now does not have to be the way you always feel. Now, I'm going to contradict myself for a little bit. If you're someone who has been isolated, and I'm going to tell y'all, the Surgeon General says that isolation is the same. It's like the Surgeon General is saying that isolation is a public health crisis now. That being by yourself is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I am not talking to my people who are introverted who need to recharge their battery by being by themselves and then they return to people. I'm talking about being by yourself, period. Create a life that centers you, but you can have some community as well. And part of that can be a very concentrated way that you decide to give away. I give to this cause. I tutor this kid. I mentor this young professional. And there are all types of organizations. All you got to do is get on the Googles and find it. But it can be concentrated effort in one direction of giving versus feeling like you got to constantly give all the time. I have questions when people are like completely given. Where are you giving to yourself and how? You are on that pie chart too, and you need to be the biggest pie. You need to be a delicious pecan pie. Okay? So, crafting a pleasure routine or something that is three things that you like to do that you're going to focus on. I mean, I know y'all, I'm giving you all these ideas because y'all ain't one size fits all. That's what makes you so amazing and helps you access your pleasure. You're not all the same. We do share some similar needs, the desire to be loved, the desire to be seen, desire to be heard. We got to eat, we got to, drink, we got to have shelter. Yes, we have those, but within that, there's so many different ways that we are different, which is amazing. Some person's pleasure routine might be hiking and being in a tent. Another person's pleasure routine might be glamping. You have to experience that to figure out what you want to do. Like for me with the Samba experiment, I was like, I'm good. I don't need no more dance right now for a while. I did enjoy doing tennis though. So you sometimes have to try out things to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Y'all, I've given you a bunch of podcasts, but I'm gonna give you another one. The Yum Sum episode I just did can help you locate your pleasure. Let me just say this. Pleasure can be a moving target. You may enjoy something for a long time and then decide you don't enjoy it and you enjoy the opposite. So give yourself a pleasure allowance of changing or remembering what it is you really want. Couple more. Hire somebody. Hire me. I can help you locate your pleasure. Hire a sex coach. Hire a mindset coach. Go on YouTube, read some books. Like, make pleasure a priority. I want to sing Janet Jackson's Pleasure Principle so bad. The pleasure principle. Oh, oh, oh. Like, make your pleasure routine center. I'm going to figure out what I like. I'm going to enhance what I like, or I'm going to decide this is what I like. Here's another pleasure. I know y'all know this. Y'all screaming at the screen. You're screaming at your phone or however you listen to the computer screen. Silence can be pleasure. Years ago, I went on a day-long silent retreat. I was in bliss. Friends, they have 2-week silent retreats, 3-day silent retreats. They have all of these silent retreats. You can be silent. When I went to St. Croix, there was a wonderful woman who was from New York. Everybody knew not to knock on her door. She was silent every Saturday until noon. How cool is that? Allowing yourself to be silent, allowing yourself to be quiet, allowing yourself spiritual pleasure, okay? Like some of us, when we feel closely connected to who we call God, we feel pleasure. Allowing yourself to roam in your thoughts and feelings to figure out what feels good to you. So making pleasure a habit is just saying, I'm gonna keep plugging into this. I'm gonna do this daily. I'm gonna do this several times a week. I'm gonna do this multiple times a day. You're gonna keep doing it until it just feels like something you do, because that's what a habit is. They say that it takes, what, 30, 60, 90 days? I think it takes you feeling so good about it that you wanna keep doing it, and also coming up with, "What happens if this gets interrupted? How do I still have the pleasure?" I will tell you about my town. I had kind of fallen out of love with my town, and I was doing a lot of traveling after the pandemic. And I decided I was going to fall back in love with my town, which is kind of about the thrift shop story. But now I like go into stores and go into coffee shops and talk to my neighbors, and not my neighbors who live in my neighborhood. I'm talking about my town as a neighbor, and go to like neighboring places and like, see my town as so fascinating, do all these free community events, and then decide which ones I wanna pay for. I decided to have a pleasurable love affair with my town again, and I love it. I love it because when I was beginning to think about like, do I want to be here forever? Like, is this something I want? I was like, I don't want to start over with friends. I don't want to start over with all these things. I can travel, I can go places, I can go with my loved ones places, but also like, how can I love having my 2 neighborhood coffee shops? Or how can I know that this is where I go get gas? And how can I know that this is the doctor I've had for all these years? And how can I know that this is the place I go to get my clothes altered? There is a pleasure in I won't say routine, but there is a pleasure in knowing that you got your places. That you have that you've already figured out the big things, that you can share your places. Pleasure is relaxing. Pleasure is fun. Pleasure is relieving. It's the way to not feel exhausted. It gives you energy. And midlife is the perfect time to reawaken pleasure in yourself and to rediscover yourself. I'm going to end with this story. When I went to Panama, and I talked about this, I feel like I've talked about this before in an episode. Um, I struggled with insomnia for a lot of my life, and I went to Panama. I slept like a baby. I was so happy. Everything was so new. I'm a curious person. I need a certain amount of newness. And there was a wonderful, wise woman who worked in the kitchen and worked with her daughter-in-law in the kitchen, cooked the most delicious meals for us, and we called her Doña. And one of the things that when one of the folks was reflecting back on it, they were saying, "She doesn't live to Doña doesn't live to work. She works to live," meaning that her pleasure was in her family, her pleasure was in her partner, her pleasure was in her community, her was just the way that provided for the pleasure of her loved ones, of her family. I love that. Y'all, don't let money stop you. Don't let time stop you. If you decide to make pleasure a habit, it will change your life. And if you need help with that, go to kimarrington.com and hop on my wait list. And when I'm able to, I can help you discover this. This is a huge thing. There is not a client that I work with that we don't talk about rediscovering pleasure, and it changes their life. It's changed my life. And this is one of the easiest things you can do. Make pleasure bite size Allow yourself to experience it if you have to in small amounts, and then you can make it, have more. Remember, repression of pleasure leads to anger, resentment, and regression. Pleasure is a journey. Finding your way back home to what you are, which is pleasure, is going to make you feel good. Okay, you all know I end every single podcast with an affirmation to help you get through the week, to help you bring in the energy of what you want. This week's affirmation is I'm easily learning to make pleasure a daily habit. I'm easily learning to make pleasure a daily habit. I'm easily learning to make pleasure a daily habit. Hey, yours in deep, loving pleasure. Y'all have a great week. I've given you a lot in this podcast to ask yourself to get back to who you are because that is the greatest pleasure of all. Oh, yeah, and love. All right. Y'all have a good one. I will talk to you next week.
Are you feeling what you just heard? Good, good. Repeat after me. You don't have to figure it out on your own again anymore. I'm here to help. Head over to kimarrington.com and download my free video series dedicated to getting you feeling your best right now. Look around, there's some good stuff waiting on you. Got questions? Well, we're always talking on the socials, so find me on YouTube, Insta, and the book. Don't be shy, y'all. Go listen to another episode or join me here the same time next week. Finally, don't keep good shit to yourself. Share this with a homie that could use some help too. Remember, we're not lying to ourselves anymore. We're not lying to our doctors. And you damn sure don't lie to your life coach.